Hollywood, 1995. One time I saw Earl Holliman in a parking garage of the Sunset Five. He was no longer a busy working actor, but I had seen him in the movies ever since I was a kid. I had only lived in Hollywood for a few months. I was struck at how normal a guy he seemed as he parked his car, got out, and walked toward the elevator. I waited for him so I could speak to him. I wasn't nervous or starstruck, but I wanted him to know how much I admired his work. I thought the more specific I was, the better it would be. As I approached him, surprisingly, he smiled at me and said, "How you doing?" I didn't answer his question, but said, "Man, you were great in Last Train from Gun Hill." He took a moment, looked at me closely, and said, "Good picture." I hung back so I wouldn't have to share the elevator with him. I just wanted to leave it at that. If I had kept talking to him, it may have been too much. He was not a leading man or a household name, but to me, Earl Holliman is and was a real movie star. I was glad I saw him. If it had been 20 years earlier, it would have been like seeing Ward Bond or Woody Strode. But it was 1995, and he was Earl Holliman. The commitment of these kind of actors hold movies together. They made the big stars' jobs easier because they gave so much without the pressure of stardom. They knew exactly what their role called for, and they did it perfectly. It was a real Hollywood moment I'll never forget. Thank you. 1974. The smell of baking frying soaked the tiles. Heat melted the sound of protracted breathing. The small supervisor understood how it went. $3 an hour and a taste of youth ain't so bad. 6 cylinders fired under a green bonnet Rambler. 240 Z's collided at the corner of nowhere and just ahead. Squat on a lush vinyl reflection to remove the man from God. Love will tell me how to pray for a pulse, but none came suddenly. The walk to Yvonne was 1.5 miles and 20 steps. A foot never landed, for the journey had grace. Time told of Asian distance, pale-skinned absence. His heart signaled the unimaginable. A change is going to come. Oh, yes, it will. Empty chairs floated on a raft of tears. Won't be long now. The smell of baking frying soaked the tiles. A slight limp came in the door, but I could not identify his bones. With a collective sputter and choke, the engine returned, cool to the touch. Thank you. I know February 14th is Valentine's Day. I'm going to do something with my wife about that, not you guys. Okay? But anyway, February 7th was my mother's birthday. This one's called Now She Floats. Living a recurring dream. Everything so familiar. But this time, there's no waking up. No sighs of relief. Every second of every moment had come to this. Self, you better get here as you can fast. The other way don't run. Avoid to the sting. Lying in favor of a comfort level. Enter thou into the joy of a soul received. Every door on earth will remain open. Now she floats. The sound of her voice traveled to shrill and back. As I recalled the moments of distance, the payments not made, standing orders not filled. It was then I was carried, but failed to recognize my weight. Footprints in the sand washed out with the tide. Are you there? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you just give me that? You understand, don't you? Sure you do. Didn't mean to let on, just thinking out loud. Too late for do-overs, too soon to fly away. But this time, the top floor must be emptied out. Now she floats. Snow on Mount Carmel had a special bite. Conditions going from south to southern. Last looks, cold hands, machines imitate life. This is the room where the line is drawn. I never imagined it as this dry. Sit and wait. Sit and wait. My mind grips the fresh days, nut rolls, orange housecoats, hot cones, pink foam rollers, Hollywood cold cream, the smell of coconut, taking walks around the block. Now she floats. You don't have to be afraid of her feet anymore. I quietly swallowed my appetite for survival. Slowly, slowly, let it go. The pain, the smiles, disappointments, regrets, let it go. In one breath, life broke free of bounds. Clarity scaled the lofty corridors of eternity. A mighty swirl of generations cleared a path, stood out of breeding, and she was home again, up a little higher. Dissolve in stillness. Who am I now? Am I my own, never to return? The boy, the man, the child, the girl, the woman, the baby? She took what was left and gave what she had, resting on a higher balcony, no longer keeping inflammation company. May God ever bless you. Now she floats. Thank you.